I just like to, smoke a joint every now and then.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
You dick!
Welcome to Vote Pro Podcast, brought to you by VoteProPot.com. When I was at this one office I was working at about 10 years ago, for some reason they had those little Staples easy buttons on all the desks. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where you hit the button and it goes, that was easy. Well, at certain times when people got bored, someone would just hit it, and then someone else would hit it, and the next thing you know, and we're all in cubicles, and next thing you know, it's like that was easy. It was just going off. Well, I had Samuel L. Jackson all queued up. Right in the middle of that, you'd hear, "I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing."
I used to have one of those buttons on my nightstand.
Yeah, right.
Do this. Okay, let's do it.
All right then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for making us a part of your day, and welcome to Vote Pro Podcast. I'm Phil Adams.
I'm Jay Britton.
I'm Andrew McCready's.
And before we get started, we want to thank everybody, all of our listeners, for sharing and downloading Vote Pro Podcast. We have just logged this week our 1,000th download. So Thank you all very much. We're off to a great start. And here's to the next 1,000 and beyond. Today we're going to tell you about some Senate committee shakeups that are taking place that many believe bode well for cannabis legalization. We're going to talk about some celebrity news with regard to cannabis. Jay has an update on the weed smell lawsuit that we talked about a few episodes back. But first, one of the things that is very important to us at Vote Pro Pot is to dispel some of the myths and misconceptions about cannabis, its use, the people who use it, and the laws governing it, and set the record straight and kind of undo a lot of the misinformation and frankly, outright falsehood that has accumulated over the years. And of course, now that we're getting into the holiday season, you may have opportunities to discuss some of these topics with family and friends around the dinner table at Thanksgiving and Christmas and the holidays in general. And Andrew, you've got some ammunition that our pro-pot listeners may want to stock up on to when they want to tangle with those who are adamantly opposed to legalization. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I got an article from IVN. It's 60 Reasons to Legalize Marijuana. So when you're sitting around the dinner table this holiday season and old Uncle Jeff, starts spewing, "No good people smoke marijuana."
Good old Uncle Jeff.
You can, you'll have some ammunition, And first thing I should say, when you're discussing this over the holiday season, do it civilly. You don't have to argue. This is not really a super hot button issue. True. You don't have to insult people. Also, Uncle Jeff just lost his job, so take it easy on him.
So did Uncle Pete.
Either Pete or Jeff.
And actually, it's actually a good change of subject when the political discussions get a little too heated.
Yeah, good
you
point.
Say, well, where do you stand on legalization of cannabis? And what would you say?
That's true. That's better than talking about immigration or gun control.
So give us some of these great reasons.
To start off, consistency is one. I mean, if people are going to drink and smoke, they should. It's a little hypocritical of them to be, commenting about cannabis. Then there's the fact that alcohol and nicotine, which are both also intoxicating substances, are legal in the United States, despite overwhelming empirical reality that they're both incredibly destructive to health.
Right.
That's true.
And to follow that up, cannabis, it's not toxic nor fatal. In fact, according to the NIH, tobacco is the first leading preventable cause of death in America. and alcohol is the third leading cause of preventable death. And according to the DEA, marijuana has killed exactly 0 people ever in the history of the world.
Not a one.
That's a pretty good statistic.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Throw that one at Uncle Jeff.
I wonder what's the second leading cause of preventable death. We got the first and the third.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't
Bad
know.
dental hygiene, maybe. I don't know. I just never. They give you the first, they give you the third, but they don't tell you what's number 2.
Yeah, just hey, look into that, Phil, and tell us on the next
All
episode.
right. I'm an expert on number 2.
Hey, Alexa.
Or tell us the next time we record this episode.
Okay.
That's an inside joke. Okay, the next is cannabis is not addictive. Not only is marijuana impossible to overdose on, unlike alcohol, according to former U.S. Surgeon General Jocelyn Elders, THC, the psychoactive substance in marijuana responsible for the characteristic high, is not even addictive, like alcohol or tobacco, or even caffeine for that matter. While consumers can become tolerant to THC, the effects of the drug diminishes over repeated consumption without a tolerance break, which in most cases will just be a few days. It does not cause a dependency, unlike alcohol or tobacco. So that's another thing. Now, though there is no physical addictiveness, some people can be emotionally addicted to it. So, but there is no physical withdrawals.
Yeah, but people can become emotionally addicted to shopping,
gambling,
or to going playing video games. I mean that can be addictive too, but it's a different kind of addiction.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And
There's no physical. Right.
The government can't get into making all those items illegal. It would be ridiculous, obviously.
Okay, the next, cannabis is not a gateway drug. There's been so many studies on this so far, and it's been proven beyond a doubt it's not a gateway drug. And also in Colorado and in California, well, especially in Colorado, they've studied this, and teen use has gone down and stay the same. Actually, Colorado teen use is below the national average.
Whenever anyone says gateway drug, I think the proper response is,
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much established now in multiple studies over, some of them been going on for 10 or 12 years, that is just, there's no evidence that it's a gateway drug.
And also, if you go back to the source of it, Harry Anslinger, after he originally said marijuana will make you insane and criminal and violent, permanently mentally deranged, when everyone realized that was all bullshit, he changed his tune in the 1950s. That's when he said, well, no, it doesn't make you crazy, but it will turn you into a heroin addict.
Right.
And he started that with no medical evidence, nothing. He just pulled it right out of his ass. And it's been used ever since. And,
quite to the contrary, new studies show that using cannabis is a great way to get people who are on hard drugs off of them. So it's contrary to the whole idea of a gateway drug. If somebody's on heroin or other opiates, they're coming to determine that cannabis is a great way to get them off of it. It's a great way to wean them and reduce the withdrawal symptoms, right?
Well, I heard that the doctor in Israel, he said that he treats the people with going through opiate withdrawals. He treats them with cannabis. He says, I more or less substitute the cannabis for the opiates, and then it's real easy to quit the cannabis. It's easy,
you
easier
just
than
walk
coffee.
away. Yeah.
Okay, the next one is your damage to your lungs. Some say, smoking that is like, so some people I've heard one joint does more damage than a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, I've always heard that.
This article goes on to say that your lungs, in rigorous 20-year study with over 500 men and women, over 5,000 men and women, published in 2012 by the American Medical Association, researchers at 2 American universities found that casual marijuana use, which is defined as smoking up to a joint a week for 20 years or a joint a day for 7 years, not only doesn't harm lung function, but was associated with increased lung airflow rates and increased lung capacity.
That's amazing to me. I'd never heard that.
I've never heard that
knew
before,
that.
But
no.
I have heard that cannabis smokers have a lower rate of lung cancer than non-smokers.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great one, Andrew, for when you're sitting around the table, because that's always one of the arguments the old farts come up with is, well, maybe it's not gateway and maybe it's not addictive, but it'll ruin your lungs and you'll get lung cancer.
Yeah, but, even if they do, you can say edibles sublinguals.
That's true, yeah.
Topicals.
Tinctures,
There's many
yeah.
ways to ingest cannabis that you don't smoke.
Didn't seem to hurt Michael Phelps.
That's right.
No, that guy's got the lung capacity of a whale.
Okay, next, cancer. Now, there's been more and more studies showing how THC and cannabinoids and CBD, or such as CBDs, are really helping people treat cancer. Not only do they use it for chemotherapy to stop the nausea, which everyone knows cannabis is the most effective substance to help nausea.
Well, everyone doesn't know that, but they should.
Well, in the medical profession, that's kind of widely known.
Okay.
So, and now there's actually saying that some THC and other compounds in cannabis can actually help shrink tumors and cause cancer cells to self-destruct. Right. So but now that's getting into more of the medical thing. Now, besides cancer, is obviously used for chemo, and we discuss how it's being used to get people off opiates. But there's also a number of medical ailments, one that is being used for example, epilepsy, Alzheimer's. There's some people saying they're using it now for dementia, arthritis, chronic pain, Crohn's disease, glaucoma, MS, Parkinson's. I mean, the list sort of goes on, and they're finding more and more. They're even finding that they can use it to help people lose weight.
There's articles around now about some new studies that show, like you said, shrinking tumors and some really exciting possibilities with some of the compounds in cannabis and cancer. Right?
We did an article episode ago about treatment for autism.
Lot to learn on the medical front, that's for sure.
Now, there's a few other issues, a few other arguments that I'll just touch on. One is like creativity. Some people say the marijuana increases enhances the part of the brain that is creative and helps you see things in a different way and put things together.
I'm not sure how that one's going to sit with Uncle Jeff, though.
Yeah, well. Yeah.
What the hell does he know about creativity?
It might work with Aunt Sally. The next one is happiness, a 2017 study of California and Colorado residents found that marijuana consumers are markedly more financially successful and satisfied with their lives than abstainers.
Maybe I should take it up again.
Well, it's I think it sort of levels the stress out and helps with anxiety big time. I've heard some people say cannabis is like smoking cannabis for anxiety is like throwing a bucket of water on a small fire. Mm-hmm. It just squelches it just immediately. Now, there's another big argument is some people claim that it's just not constitutional. That cannabis the government can't tell us we can't smoke it because they don't have the right to do it. Now, I think, Phil, you are more familiar with the Constitution than Jay or I. So could you expound on that a little bit, maybe?
Well, I think, the constitutional question is really my whole reason for this. I mean, I don't partake, and I haven't for a long time, but I am, on the conservative side, and really a conservative ought to be backing legalization on constitutional grounds. And one of the ones that stands out to me in the Constitution is the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. That means if it's not in the Constitution, then it's up to the people and to the states to decide. And it is not the job of the federal government, as I've said several times, to be our babysitters and our nannies and tell us what's good for us and what's not good for us. Now, I think the government has a great role in making recommendations, setting standards, enforcing contracts and things like that. But when it comes to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which what could be more American than that? Federal government needs to stay out and let the states decide these laws. If you don't like the way cannabis laws are in the state of Massachusetts, move to Connecticut. If you don't like what's going on in Oklahoma, move to Texas. The state by state can decide these things, and that's federalism. And that's what, I think the government ought to get back to, and I think that's what people on both sides of the aisle, and this is the appeal I would make to folks on my side of the aisle, get behind federalism and leave this to the states.
Andrew, I think this is a great article and anybody that's interested in making changes really should read it, because there was some great stuff in here. And the cool thing about it, there's 60 items, like you said, but they're all condensed. So it just gives you a quick snippet of what your comeback can be when somebody says, that it's addictive, or, any of the number that you just went over. It's great. I'll put a link on the show notes to this article so people can check it out.
So you download it to your phone, and so you have your own little playbook.
There you go.
This holiday season, when Uncle Jeff starts spewing about good people not smoking marijuana.
This article comes from marijuanamoment.net, and it says, Shakeup in key Senate committee bodes well for federal marijuana reform. Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa, and a longtime ardent marijuana legalization opponent, announced on Friday that he is stepping down as chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee in order to take over separate leadership position, and I believe he's headed for the Finance Committee. And this is potentially paving a path forward for cannabis legalization in the 116th Congress. Next in line for the chairmanship of the panel, which plays a central role in drug policy legislation, is Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, who certainly isn't the most marijuana-friendly member of the Senate, but is significantly more open-minded about medical cannabis and other common-sense reform measures than the current chairman is. Now, with Jeff Sessions out as Attorney General and some other ardently anti-legalization Republicans losing this time, I think there are some significant roadblocks have been knocked over toward legalization. And it could well be that bipartisan legislation could make its way through Congress to the president's desk. And frankly, I have a feeling that the president would sign it. He's hinted that he would.
But now sort of the big question out now is, what about Jeff Sessions' replacement, Matt Whitaker? We're not really sure how he stands on cannabis. Now, he is quoted as saying that he sees how medical cannabis has been good for some families that he's aware of. But he is a stickler. He's the Attorney General, so he's got to be a stickler for federal
law enforcement guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So well, and of course the other variable in this is that Matthew Whitaker is a temporary replacement. Now, Trump may decide to keep him on permanently, but he is an interim Attorney General. Mm-hmm. So it may be him, it may be somebody else. So there's a lot of variables in all of this, but even so, if a pro-legalization or even just descheduling legislation comes out of committee, that's a big deal, because now it is still possible to get a vote on the Senate floor on a piece of legislation without having it come out of committee, but it's much more difficult. Having, the committee vote on it and give it their imprimatur and put it out there makes it much more difficult for the Senate Majority Leader, in this case Mitch McConnell, to ignore it and to backburner it. So my impression is that if it did come out of committee, it would get a floor vote. And even if the president didn't sign it, it's still, that's another step, you know, incremental baby steps, just keep moving forward. But I do have a feeling that if one did reach the president's desk, he would sign it.
Right, because all the pro-cannabis legislation has gone to these Senate committees to die. Never got past those barriers.
Grassley, he bounced every single bill and every single amendment that had anything to do with cannabis. So he's never let one go to vote. So should be a difference. It can't get worse. It can only be better, right?
So 2019 is going to be an interesting year for cannabis reform.
Yeah,
And
really
it's going
is.
to come to a head in
Yeah,
2020.
2018 was. So I'm
True.
looking forward to even more in 2019. That's
It's
absolutely
really
true.
gaining momentum. And all these and all these elected officials are starting to realize, guys, man, with numbers 66% are for adult use and over 90% are for medical marijuana.
Yeah.
It's hard to ignore.
You're not going to get reelected if you're outspoken against it.
Yeah,
Really.
that's right.
It's time for them to just say yes. Don't be a Nancy.
Back to the celebrity stories. I've got one here from High Times by Callie Behrens. Came out a couple days ago about Michelle Obama. Everybody knows she's got a book coming out. And this is a decent little puff piece. It says, Michelle Obama writes about smoking pot in upcoming book. Like her husband, Michelle Obama is candid about her past cannabis consumption. I think this article kind of speaks to the fact that it's becoming a lot more acceptable to discuss the subject nowadays, which is great for us.
Well, politically and culturally, I think, yeah.
Well, I mean, just compare what Michelle and Barack have said about cannabis compared to Bill Clinton. I mean, Bill Clinton said he didn't inhale because people were saying, well, I smoked weed with Bill. But, I mean, I don't hold that against Bill. He's a politician. Anyway, the article goes on to say, on a recent interview with 2020 for the book, she faces questions about her admission. When host Robin Roberts wonders why Obama would write so openly about her pot use as kids, she replies simply, "That's what I did." So she goes on to say, yeah, I smoked weed, and Barack smokes weed.
That's the fact.
Everybody smokes weed, so what? The interesting part of this article to me was the discussion of Barack's use, with rumors from the former president's biographer that, off the clock, Barack enjoys a weed-infused gummy or a puff from time to time. Now, I think it's fair to throw in here that there's interviews with Barack when he was asked, point blank, how do you feel? And he basically said he was against medical marijuana. So, in fairness, it's a bit... what would you say about that, guys? I mean,
he's also on record as saying he doesn't think cannabis is any more harmful than alcohol.
Right, but
he did change his opinion on it, I think, from when he was campaigning to after he got elected.
Oh, that may be.
Well, there's nothing wrong with changing your opinion. I mean, he changed his opinion on a lot of issues, same-sex marriage. I mean,
I don't think
there's
he
a lot
changed
of
his
things.
opinion. I think he was being a politician because on the one hand, he's smoking weed and eating gummies, and on the other hand, he's saying it should be illegal. That's kind of cowardly, if you ask me.
Is he saying that he eats gummies now?
That's what this guy says. Also, the article goes in to talk a little bit about their kids, and I feel bad for them because they're just teenagers, or I don't know, they might be 20 now, they're in college or whatever, and they everywhere they go, they got a camera on them, of course. And as political figures, the Obama's opinion on weed makes an impression. As parents, it may have too. Former first daughter Malia has been seen up to her own youthful antics while away at school at Harvard. Now living in a state with legal recreational weed, the undergraduate can lawfully enjoy cannabis with her friends.
Yeah, which raises the question, so?
Yeah, right. So what?
Well, as I recall, college students have been smoking weed since the 60s. I mean, in massive amounts.
Yeah.
No. Did you do research on that, Andrew? Did you look that up on the internet?
I did research. Yeah, we did. It was a full-fledged study. We had lab coats and clipboards and everything.
Yeah, in my van in the parking lot.
Yeah, well, if the difference between science and fucking around is you write it down. Well, this is some more, dare I say, celebrity news. This isn't really a celebrity, but it's somebody whose name people recognize. And it's an article from blabbermouth.net. I've never heard of blabbermouth.net until now, but here it is. Ted Nugent says, quote, Canada is absolutely crazy, end quote, for legalizing recreational marijuana. Starting in October, Canada became the highest profile country to not only decriminalize cannabis possession and use, but to tax, regulate, and monitor its growth, distribution, and sale. Though a majority of the states of the United States of America have adopted some form of legal weed, marijuana remains illegal at the federal level. We know that. Now, asked in an interview if he would welcome American cannabis legalization, Ted Nugent said, quote, "Cannabis is absolutely crazy. I love my Canadian friends, but Trudeau, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, is comfortably numb. And when you're comfortably numb, you make stupid decisions." Obviously, that's a reference to an actual successful rock act.
Legendary. Pink Floyd, come on.
Yeah. And he seems to like to use the term comfortably numb instead of high. He said, "And I would just propose to you that after 70 years of an American dream of being the best that I can be and forced by disciplining parents that love me to be the best that I can be, I have never seen one moment of positive outcome from someone getting high." Well, there you have it, folks. Ted Nugent's never seen it, so it must not exist.
Right. There you go.
Now, I'm kind of laying into this because, here's the thing. You're not going to stop people from being, quote unquote, comfortably numb. If people want to get high, they're going to get high. They always have. The only question is, are we going to lock them up for it? That's the only question, And if he thinks that all of a sudden we're going to go from a nation of not getting high to a nation of getting high by legalizing cannabis, he's comfortably numb in the head, if you ask me. So,
well,
anyway,
I think Ted Nugent stopped being musically relevant in the 70s. I mean,
After his
Cat
one
Scratching
song.
was like his only big hit, and
First
he didn't
and
even
only.
sing it.
Right.
No, he didn't.
Really, the other guitar player sang it. Anyway, so for him to stay relevant or in the public eye, he's always been sort of outspoken politically. So this is his way of playing. Also, I think that's who comes to his concerts, the people who think his way. He's playing to his base.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Do people go to his concerts?
He should make hats. Let's make hats scratching again.
Yeah, right.
I have this vision of
I don't mean to.
I have this vision of Spinal Tap.
I don't mean to speak ill of the man because I don't know him, but I think his position, and I bring this up because of that very thing. This idea that people are crazy for legalizing cannabis. All they are doing is recognizing reality and deciding not to lock people up for what they're already doing.
Right. And all this talk about these, states legalizing and coming up with hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in sales, that's money that's being spent every year on cannabis that's going into the black market.
Yeah, cash money.
To Phil's point, we're not here saying you should smoke weed. That's not what we're doing.
No.
It's your choice. That's what we're saying.
Yeah,
we're
don't
saying
smoke weed.
Phil just made a great point. We're just saying you shouldn't go to jail for doing it.
That's right. You shouldn't have your entire life ruined for getting high. Well, Jay, a couple weeks ago you did an article about a marijuana smell lawsuit or something like that. I understand you have an update on that?
Yeah, that's right. This is an article from Marijuana Business, and it says, Colorado, jury rejects civil RICO complaint in marijuana smell case. This has become the smell case. For those of you who don't remember it or didn't hear our earlier episode, there's a plaintiff that owns a horse farm, and they happen to be located next to a grow operation. And the horse farm folks sued the grow operation, saying that there was a smell coming from the growing cannabis that kept away business from the horse farm, and that
which is a funny concept right there.
Yeah, right.
Really? Have you ever smelled a horse farm?
Yeah. What smells better, horse manure or weed?
That's the first thing that came to my mind. A Denver jury has rejected a civil complaint that sought to use federal anti-racketeering RICO laws as a mechanism to shut down licensed marijuana operation. Plaintiffs in the lawsuit, which was initially backed by the anti-drug organization Safe Streets Alliance, argued that the presence of a nearby licensed marijuana retailer was detrimental to their property values and sought millions of dollars in damages. The jury rejected their claims and found that the business was not responsible for any alleged monetary losses. So that's great news, not just for the civil lawsuit, but the fact that they were using the RICO laws was a little scary to a lot of businesses in legal states, because the RICO law was originally invented to go after the mob and organized crime. So
Right.
were that to prevail,
and that's not.
were that to prevail, it would have sent a shockwave through legitimate cannabis businesses in legal states, because it means the federal government could, if they wanted to, come after you under the RICO statutes, which would be very frightening.
Right, and I think the writers of the RICO statute did not write that law for the purpose of
that was not the intent.
Property values. That's not a good.
And I think
pardon me for saying so, but that doesn't pass the sniff test.
Exactly. And just the very thought that a horse farm would say that a dispensary or grow operation was smelly is laughable.
Okay, well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, we hope you will share it with some friends. Surely you know some friends who would enjoy learning about this topic. We hope you will take a moment, if you can, to... now, I know a lot of you folks are listening to this on your mobile devices, but if you have a moment to scroll on down to the comment section, please leave us a comment or give us a rating. We sure would appreciate hearing from you. Check out all our episodes, and actually, this is a great time of year to do that. If you're going to be in the car for any length of time over the holidays, just slap one of these on and check out our other episodes at VoteProPot.com.
And we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at VoteProPot@gmail.com.
And please like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Just search for VoteProPot.
And there's still lots to be done. There's elections coming up every year. And the time to get active and stay informed is now. So we ask you to learn all you can, stay involved, and vote pro-pot.
Wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. But here I am in New York City, hiding out in Central Park, getting kidnapped by the police today sometime before dark. But I wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. The judge looked down upon me frowning. He said, "Kid, get on your way. Just don't start out your morning with espresso and a J." I said, "I wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day." Hitched on out to Portland, caught a ride up to BC, took the bus over to the neighborhood to have a bowl with my coffee. Now I'm up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. Smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day.